Hi, so today I thought I'd do another live coding video, and today I thought I would do something with Bash scripting. And the idea for this video I got from this feature request that I received on GitHub for my search and subs script. And this person suggested that we could take advantage of the EDL functionality of MPV Player and make it so that you can basically search for words in subtitles by using the search and subs script. Let me show you like an example. So for example, here I'm searching for the text wiki in this subtitle file, and it gives me this output. So that's how the search and subs script works at the moment. And what we're gonna try to do is we're gonna try and generate an EDL file from this output so that all of these search results can immediately be played in MPV Player, and you can basically watch the search results not in real time, but like watch the search results directly after you have performed the search. So this is a really nice idea, and that also crossed my mind, and it's nice that they suggested it, so I really appreciated it, and I thought it would be kind of a nice thing to try and implement. It's kind of a bit of fun, and it's probably gonna be also useful in certain cases, maybe like for language learning when you want to search for some word and you kind of want to review the bits of videos that you found where that word occurs. So yeah, this is a nice thing to do. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So in case you're not familiar with the EDL format, EDL is basically, EDL stands for edit decision list. So yeah, edit decision list. That basically means that you can create an edit of that basically pulls the bits and pieces of various audio, video, or subtitle files from different places and puts them together in a virtual file that the MPV player can play. So it can play the edit without the edit being actually like a rendered video file, but it can be just like this text file, and it can play it. So this is a very nice feature of MPV. I made a video about this feature on my channel, and I'll link to that in the description. So yeah, you can watch that video, and I go over like a lot of detail on how to use it, how to edit these files, and also talk about my script. Well, the video was about the script that I made that makes it easier for you to create these EDL files, but I talk about the format as well there. So that's the EDL format. Since we're going to be coding this, it's worth taking a look at the format. So basically the first line of the EDL file has to be this header, and then you have lines with basically, like, this is the main kind of format that you need to know. First you have the file, then you have the starting point of the segment, and then the length of the segment, and this is in seconds. With milliseconds you can go 10 point and 3 more digits, or maybe even more digits than that, but basically, yeah, this is in seconds, and they are comma separated. There's also like escaping rules that we'll have to deal with as we try to implement this. But yeah, and also besides these lines, there can also be special headers that look like this, like an exclamation mark, and then like a certain text after it. And we're gonna be using let me see, new stream, the new stream header, because we're gonna have to actually have 3 files on each kind of each time we generate the thing that we need, we'll have to have 3 files. One is gonna be basically the main file like this, which contains the information for the video track and for the audio, or not the audio but the subtitle track. And then we're gonna have separate EDL files for the video track and for the subtitle track. And like the main file will be just basically putting them together. That's how the EDL format works. I covered that in my other video, and I'll actually play a segment from that video right now, or maybe not play a segment, but just show some kind of some things that I did there, just like as like on pause basically. So like this is the main file. It has this video and subtitle tracks and the new stream header, so that the second line is read as a new track or new stream, like as they call it here. And as you can see, like these files can also be like EDL files, so you can source EDL files in other EDL files. They don't have to be videos like they show here, like they have an MKV file here, but it can also be an EDL file. And then I also have these other 2 files here, which are so editvid.edl. This contains the video segments, and edit sub basically has the same let me see, video track and for the subtitle. And so the second one is for the subtitle track, but the kind of the starting position and the length actually end up being the same. But that's the only way to tell MPV to pull information from separate files at once by using this EDL format. So I can't use a single file, which would be nice, but it's not possible in this case. So we'll have to generate a few temporary files for this to be able to, for this to work. So let me close this. Yeah. So let's see. So yeah, I have my text editor open here. So here's the search and subs script, and I already did some kind of pre-thought, did some pre-thinking in preparation for this video to save some time, so that I don't so it doesn't take me hours to figure out every single thing. But I haven't thought about many of this, almost any of the specifics of what I'm actually going to be doing. So let's see. So I thought about a few options that I want to add. So I'll add this -p, or the long version EDL play option. So this will be basically, when you pass this option, it will open the MPV player after you do the search like this. So you let's say you run this, and it will also launch MPV player and play the entire thing. When you close the MPV player, it basically, so when you do the search, the temporary files will be generated and then will be played. And these other 2 options, with -k and -K, will control whether or not those temporary files will be kept or deleted immediately after you close MPV player and the script closes. So we'll need to set up a cache directory for that too, which I haven't done before, but it's pretty easy because there is a standard way to do that. And then I also thought about these 2 additional options to save EDL files, in 2 variations for relative and absolute paths. So like depending on what you want, like if you want the EDL file to contain relative paths to your video files or absolute ones, but I might not get to these in this video because there's quite a lot things to cover already. So this might be just kind of like more of an idea for the future at this point. But that's probably yeah. I might get to that eventually. We'll see how it goes. So let's take things one step at a time. Let's first set up that cache directory. So I already have a config directory set up here. So what this line does is it tests whether or not this file exists, and then it sources the config file. Like for cache, so for cache we'll need basically, yeah, like at this stage I'll probably just create a variable here and call it cache dir, because the actual action for the cache directory won't come after until later in the script, and I don't want to create any like files if they're not necessary. But basically, so this is worth explaining a little bit. So this XDG config home variable is a standard variable that follows the XDG Base Directory specification. This is a very good standard to know about if you're going to be like writing scripts or command line programs, stuff like that. It's good to follow this because then everything stays like very nicely organized. The config files go in one place, like cache files go in another dedicated place, like data files, and so on. So everything is nicely organized, and it's standard. So like some programs just create like a dot, then the name of the program directory in your home directory, and then you have a bunch of like hidden folders in your home directory. It's not the best. Like it would be nice if all of them kind of put their stuff in dedicated places and leave the home directory as uncluttered as possible, but yeah, this is my preferred way of doing it, so I'm gonna follow this standard. Basically, yeah. So what this specification asks us to do is to basically, if the user decides that they want some kind of other cache directory other than the standard, they can set this variable in their bash rc or .profile or .bash profile files, etc. So they can configure it for themselves. But if not, we should default it to home.cache. And I already did a similar thing here for .config. It's basically the same, just the only difference is that it's home.config. So a lot of this I can just copy. I'll just copy this entire thing for the time being. And so XDG config home and XDG cache home is the one that we are gonna be needing here. And home.cache will be the default. So this is a very kind of nice way of like generally in bash what I found is like taking advantage of these I wish I could recall what they're properly called. Let me pull up bash reference manual and take a look. So shell parameter expansions. So these are very useful because they cut down on a lot of unnecessary if-then type of statements and like all kinds of things that you don't need to like make as complicated. Like this is very useful for when you have a default value and in this case we want this part of the string to be XDG cache home if it's set. If it's not set, put home dot cache there. So, and that's all I need to do here. So I don't need this because basically this is going to be our cache directory. So like by default it will be just home.cache search and subs, which is perfect. So yeah, like in general I also often use this one for when well, maybe I don't need to get into this right now because yeah, just to save time and not digress into like other topics. But this one is also something that is I use very often in my scripts. I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so let's see. So what should we do next? So let's okay, let's take a look at options. So I'm gonna limit myself to these at the moment, and I'll leave these probably for another session because yeah, it's probably gonna take a while. But basically, so just to explain what is going on here. So I'm using getopt, which is a very good standard option parsing utility, and like I used to not I kind of heard about it, and but then I would still like try to, like, when I want some options in my scripts I would like do some like crazy function that I would write and would take up like a ton of space in the script, and it's just completely unnecessary. This is like a perfect way to do it. Like I'm not going to explain the entire thing about how to use getopt. There's kind of a lot of articles about this online, but like basically you need to put this thing at the beginning to check for the version of getopt, because there's kind of older versions don't support all of the features, and you need to know that it's like this enhanced getopt version. So like I installed Debian when was it, like in August last year, and the enhanced getopt came with it by default. So this is pretty much like a standard utility at this point, but this is just a check to see if the version of getopt on the user's system is gonna work for this script, because we're gonna be working for the enhanced getopt version. Or working with that version rather. Then you need to put this thing there, where you define all of your valid options. So getopt will check. This is where actually getopt is run over here in this subshell, and then the output gets saved into the opts variable. And essentially the output of this is gonna be all of your parameters, but like formatted in a standard way. Like it will put the options before the non-option arguments and do stuff like that. So it will just kind of rearrange things so that then you can easily parse them with a while, with this kind of loop, because like if they weren't in order, then it also adds this end of options parameter, so that like when it finds the dash dash parameter, it knows like, okay, the options have been parsed, and then this loop can quit. So this is very useful. So basically getopt just kind of it standardizes like whatever mess you input on your command line, and then you can parse the options in a standard way and not worry about the order or anything like that. So yeah, this is a very useful thing. So over here you need to define which options it will accept and which ones it will reject. So I'll need to add a couple of things here because I'm going to be adding new options. So I'll add these three, -p, -k, and -K. So the short options go the dash under the -O. So they're passed as an argument to -O, and it's P, K, and K. You also can notice that sometimes that there's a colon here. That means that an option has a required parameter. So it's like it's not just -t, it's -t, and then something follows it, because like the way it works in search and subs is you pass the search term to -t. So there's always like something there. There's also sometimes you can also use optional parameters. So for that you do 2 colons, and then that has kind of its certain peculiarities which you can read about in the getopt's man page, or that's not the right one, but just man getopt. Maybe like if we come across it, I'll explain more about it. It's somewhere in there. I'm not gonna do it right now, but yeah. So this is actually something that I thought I'd do probably for these 2 options. That's why I have these this path and in square brackets, because like a user might sort of like you might have like by default, for example, it will save to the current working directory, but then maybe a user wants to save it to some other place, and then they can pass that path as an optional parameter. But if there's nothing there, then it will just save it to the current directory. So that was kind of my idea. But yeah, that's something for later. So I always kind of like to end it with a comma, like put a comma after every single parameter, even after the last one. This way it kind of sometimes helps if you need to do like a search and replace, and you can like cut or like insert things in a more consistent way. But yeah, that's just something that I do personally. Let's see, so we also need to add these long options. So that's EDL play, then EDL what was it, keep temporary, and EDL no keep temporary. I try to always follow a standard sort of like way of naming these things like options, because you can name them as anything. But I guess I picked this up from MPV Player. They kind of tend to have this way of naming things. For example, like I have here like verbose, and I have a no verbose option that disables the verbose. And so, but then sometimes you have this kind of subset of options like that will start with --EDL something, and then I have like play, keep temporary. And so like in this case, if I don't want to keep temporary files, then I'll say EDL no keep temporary. Not no EDL keep temporary, but EDL no keep temporary, because it kind of goes under the EDL subset of options. So that's my logic there. So yeah, like once you do this, then there's this check here which just basically checks if this subshell exited with success, and if it didn't, the script exits with an exit code 1, which means there was an error. And if that happens, getopt will also print like an error message saying like this option is not is invalid or something like that. But like if that check has been passed, then basically this code that getopt output, it gets set as your what are they called, like $1, $2, $3, etc. Positional parameters. Like, yeah, so like it sets we set the entire string as positional parameters. So this set command does that. And eval is because we need eval because what it outputs here, it basically needs to be like evaluated literally as code. Yeah, I guess that's as much as I'm gonna get into this right now, because yeah, otherwise I'll spend a lot of time on explaining. But yeah, that's how it works in general. Okay, so we added these options there, and now let's add them here too. So as you can see, I also have like a standard sort of like routine here of how I name things. I always name options with opt underscore, and I set the default values for them over here before this while loop runs and checks what we set on the command line. So I'll add like opt edl play, and then the default will be nothing, because like my I think it's just kind of conventional, but the way I do it, basically, if I set it to nothing, then it means false. If I set it to 1, then it means true, because Bash doesn't have like data types or like true, false, booleans, all of that. You just have to do something like this, and I think this is pretty conventional. I'm pretty sure like other people do it the same way, because I got it from somewhere. I don't remember exactly where from, but yeah, that's I think that's conventional. So opt edl play, then opt edl keep temporary, and I don't have like, we have two options there, like keep temporary and no keep temporary, but I only have one variable because then like I don't need to, like, it's either true or false, so it's like a boolean thing. So in these cases I just have one variable that's going to be responsible for representing that. So it's opt edl keep temporary, and I'll keep it as the default is going to be delete the temporary files. Yeah. So let's see, let's add them here. So this loop, basically what it does is it uses a case statement, and then it takes the positional parameter number 1, and it checks if it matches like -t, -- search term, etc. Like when it hits a match, it goes in here, and then it does the thing, like the code here, and then lastly you need to use the shift shell built-in command to get rid of that parameter, because you're done parsing it, so that when the loop restarts, the positional parameter number 1 will be actually the next one. And so you need to pass shift 2 if the option had either an optional argument or a required argument. Like in getopt, in both cases will produce 2 parameters always. So shift 2 if there is an argument either optional or required, and shift 1 is just the default there, but you can just say shift if it's just an option without an argument. So that's how that works. I hope that makes sense. Now let's see, so we have -p for edl play. So the vertical line just says like is -p or edl play. Then we need to put a closing parenthesis, and the double semicolon closes this I don't know, like this this clause, I guess, or like whatever it's called, this part of the case statement. So it's gonna be opt edl play equals 1. Now that I think about it, okay, well, it's gonna be shift, just shift, because it doesn't have any arguments. But so if we have edl play, I guess I should also, yeah, okay. So I'll have to add a capital P2, because that's kind of, I always follow this, like if there is something that can be set, there should be an option to unset it, because I have a config file, like here's my actual config file for search and subs on my system, and you can change the default here. So if you do, then you'll need the other one in case you want to revert your default on the command line later. So I always add these things so that all the cases are covered. So we'll also have edl no play. I kind of didn't think of that ahead of time, but that's fine. Edl no play. Yeah. So yeah, this still works. Everything's good here, and edl play equals 1. So like if there's -p edl play, opt edl equals 1. Now we need to do the thing for the no play version, and it's just gonna be exactly the same, but opt edl play equals nothing. So you see, like there's no need to skimp on kind of like you put the default here and then you just kind of put both variants here. It's like this way all the possibilities are covered. I mean, I hope it makes sense. I think I explained it already. So yeah, so now I'll just kind of copy this again so I have a template, and I'll do our like keep temporary thing. And for this I'll actually use the substitute in command in Vim, and I'll say play, replace it with, what was it, keep temporary. And I'm not going to use the global flag here because I want to do it only once per line, because this part is going to have an underscore instead of a hyphen, and this way I can also do it again, and but with an underscore. So here, like, I'm done editing this, I don't have to type everything out. It's much better to like do the substitute instead of typing everything out, because chances are, like, when there's a tendency to make typos when you have to type the same thing over and over again, or something that's very similar. Okay, so we have our options. I guess let's see, so what are we gonna do? Let me save this because I'm not done with that yet. So let me just do a check to see if everything works the way we expect it to, so we don't waste any time on tracking down some bugs that we didn't catch when we could do it much easier at an earlier point. So I'll just put this here, opt edl play and opt edl keep temporary. Those are the only two options that we added so far. So I'll run search and subs, So right now there's nothing. Dash P, so there's a 1. Dash K. Man, that's why like I don't like the echo command. It's just like it's always this annoying, like don't get me started on that. It's just like so okay, EDL, like this is gonna be play and this is gonna be temporary stuff. Let's see. Does it work? Printf. Okay, so let's just start over again. So play temporary. Right now they're all both unset. Dash P play is set to 1. Dash K TMP is set to 1. And wait, why is it like that? That's weird. Oh, it's because I didn't quote these things. Like, yeah, you should always quote, like, because then you forget something like this and then you spend time wondering what went wrong. Yeah, so yeah, okay, this seems to be working fine. Let's check EDL play. Yeah, and EDL keep temporary. So like if you, just to show you what getopt does if you don't type in the option correctly, it says unrecognized option. So that's why we need to put all of this stuff in here. But actually you can shorten this, like if there's no ambiguity, it will still work. That's just something that getopt does and you can't disable it. But yeah, that's kind of, yeah, that's how getopt works. I would kind of say that maybe it would be nice if they provided like an option to disable it, but I guess there's no real problem there. Okay, so we're done with that check. Now, okay, now we're getting to the main part. So let me see. So we have this loop here, and this is the main loop where like all of the searching happens. So let me like explain a little bit about what is going on here. So like this is a while read loop. If you're not familiar with it, I recommend googling it. There's a lot of articles on that again, and yeah, it's a pretty standard way of doing things in Bash. So I would say like very standard. I don't know, it's kind of basic, but yeah. So basically, what we're doing here is we have this sed process running here in a subshell, and so this construct in Bash, what it basically does, like this while read loop, it would normally read from a file. So like over here there would be like a file, and then you could read lines from it, or like however you set it up. Basically you can read information from a file and then deal with it by means of this while read loop. But in this case, Bash also has like a little trick up its sleeve, which is this construct. So it's another less than sign, and then in parentheses you have a subshell, and you can run anything in there, and the standard output of this will be treated as though it was a file, and then you can simply pass it as a file to the same place you would pass a file to, like basically anywhere, but in our case we're passing it to the while read loop. So I think that is called process substitution. Let's see, process substitution. Yep, that's what it's called. So check out the bash reference manual if you want to learn more about that. But yeah, I mean, this is a very useful thing. So like any process, anything you run here will be treated as though it was a file, and then it can be passed to any command or program. I mean, by command I mean like a built-in shell command, or it can be like an external binary. But yeah, so sed is a really amazing tool, and I think it's kind of underestimated how powerful it really is. It's really worth learning to use it beyond, you know, like the substitute, like just kind of search and replace function, which is just like this kind of command S and then a regular expression and then what you want to replace it with. It's like that's the most basic thing, but it also can do a lot of different things, and it's actually a programming language. It's kind of a it's a programming language for a very specific purpose. It's for editing a stream of text. That's why it's called sed. It's a stream editor. That's what it stands for. And so yeah, it's an incredible tool. I really recommend anyone who's kind of a command line user to learn sed, because you can automate a lot of things. Like for example, I have a script that can like when I write a man page, here's a man page for search and subs, and so I have a script that goes through this man page, a sed script, like pure sed, there's no bash in there or anything, and then I can generate this help to paste into the script from that man page, so I don't have to worry about formatting this help or anything like that. It can just like process it and give you this output. So yeah, sed is a great thing to know about. So I'm not going to explain how this entire thing works, because like the kind of sed scripts can get pretty informationally dense, like and you have to kind of know the commands and know what they do to be able to make sense of it easily. But basically, what do I need to point out here? So yeah, the way it works, among other things, what this sed script does, like first of all, it filters out whether the subtitle line, it determines whether the subtitle, any subtitle, a given subtitle, matches a search term, the term that we provided on the command line. Where's our example? Here. So in this case, it says wiki, so that's what it's checking for, and then it only passes that subtitle to the while read loop if it actually contains that word. If there is a match. If there's no match, it just keeps going. It doesn't do anything, and so it kind of ends there. But if there is a match, then it gets passed to this loop, and then I do things with that result here. And what it also does is it appends a null byte to the end of each subtitle. So it kind of, as it goes through the lines of the subtitle file, it basically it searches for like this line. It's like, aha, okay, it's the beginning of the subtitle. Then the next line, it's the time codes, and then it's the text. And then whenever it hits an empty line, it's like, oh, this is the end of the subtitle. And then what it does is it like, okay, we're done. We're like, if there is a match, now we need to pass it to the while read loop. And but it already appends to this, to the end of this bit, so it's kind of collecting this information in its hold buffer. Yeah, I'm kind of getting into the sed stuff, but there is something that's called a hold buffer where it can save lines basically as it goes through. So as long as this matches certain criteria, it keeps saving it into the hold buffer. So this is in the hold buffer now, and then it's like, okay, the subtitle has ended. Now let's replace this new line. That's what this line does. It replaces the last new line with a null byte, and a null byte is basically I don't know how to explain it. Like, I'm not. Yeah, actually, like, I don't know a whole lot of detail about it, but let's just look it up on Wikipedia real quick. Yeah, I mean, this is what it says on Wikipedia, that it's a control character with the value 0. But the whole point of the null byte is that it's different from any character you can imagine, basically. So that it acts as a universal separator or delimiter, I should say, for the while read loop. So that when because while read loop, again, like, it deals with lines, so like, but you can tell it like, I don't want it doesn't deal with lines. It's just that the default delimiter is the new line, but you can change it to something else. But if you set this -d option, this one, to an empty string, then it will split whatever it receives into chunks that are separated with a null byte, so that we don't have to use any character such as a new line as a delimiter, but the null byte acts as a delimiter. I hope it makes sense. But basically, this way there is no possibility of like some weird character occurring in the subtitle, and then it's just like the script breaks. Like, the null byte will not be contained in the subtitle. I mean, I guess someone could insert it in there, I'm pretty sure, but that would be like ridiculous. So basically that's how it works. It's a null byte separated kind of input that this while read loop receives. So we are gonna be working inside this loop, and we are gonna be using sed here again. So that's kind of why I wanted to explain about sed a little bit, at least kind of in very general terms. So basically, what the end result of this whole process is that this while read loop, what you get inside of this loop is this subtitle variable, which contains on every run of the loop there is a subtitle with a match in that variable, stored in that variable. So we can actually see that. So before I can change anything, let's remind ourselves. Let me close this. We don't need this anymore. So here's the output. And this is actually where the output gets printed. But we are going to be adding things here. So I am going to use this subtitle variable as an input to sed. And to start with, basically we are gonna need the second line of each subtitle. Maybe at first I can just like use this L command, which stands for list, and you'll see what it does in a second. It just outputs this kind of messy thing, but the good thing about it is that it's like yeah, it just kind of ends up jumbling it up with this output, unfortunately. But let me just limit it to the second line, and I can do that with like this instead. And this way we'll only get the time codes, because it's 2 stands for the line number, so there's like 4 or potentially more lines in that in this subtitle variable, but the second one will always be the time code, the one containing time codes, because the first one is the subtitle number and the second one is always going to be the time codes. So that's what we need. So that's why I am targeting that particular line. So as you can see, there's also these escape sequences here that basically what they do is they colorize the output for the terminal. I'm gonna need to remove them, so for that I'll use the substitute command instead. And so let's see, what's the regex for? So I'm writing a regular expression here, and it's particularly the flavor of regular expressions that I'm using is POSIX extended regular expressions. That's what this -e parameter stands for. I always use extended because, like, if you don't pass this, it uses POSIX basic regular expressions, and those are kind of less powerful and a bit more cumbersome to use. So I always use extended. So yeah, essentially what we're gonna need to match here is so this \x1b stands for the escape character. This is like this \033 here is the same as this. It's just this is an octal and this is in hexadecimal. So yeah, I always write it like this. So that's why that is there. I need to escape this this opening square bracket because that's a special character in regular expressions. And then I need to match like any number of digits or a semicolon and then an M, and then replace it with nothing and do it globally so that it deletes everything, like all the escape sequences that might occur there, even though there's only one there, but the intention is to remove everything, so that's what I'm gonna put in there. So now it is, oh yeah, and I need to, wait a second, what's going on there? Yeah, I need to print this, I think, too. Yeah. Let me see, just a sec. Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna be figuring out what. Yeah, like right now it kind of duplicates the output because basically set by default it prints out every line after it's done, like after the script is run, it prints out every line, but I only need the second line, so I need to pass the n option, and then I can use the p command to print the result. To print the result, yeah. You can also just like use p like this with the substitute command, so that like if it substitutes something, then it prints. So that's yeah, at this point that's fine. So let me see, like what's next.